Long before tanks clashed in France or bombers filled the skies over Europe, another silent war was unfolding. A war of shadows, misinformation, forged documents, double agents, and elaborate illusions crafted not with bullets, but with imagination. Allied intelligence knew from the very beginning that defeating Germany, Italy, and Japan would require more than armies and weapons. It would require deception, the ability to make the enemy believe what wasn't real and ignore what truly mattered. In smoke-filled rooms from London to Washington, brilliant minds crafted operations that would mislead the Axis at the most critical moments. The Allies understood something the Axis never fully respected. In modern warfare, information could be deadlier than artillery, and confusion could win battles faster than tanks. This chapter introduces the invisible battlefield, where maps were weapons, lies were ammunition, and the fate of nations often depended on the enemy making a single wrong assumption. By 1943, the Allies were preparing to retake Europe, but invading the continent meant facing Hitler's elite armies and fortified coasts. If Germany guessed the landing site correctly, the invasion would fail before it even began. So Allied intelligence created Operation Bodyguard, the largest deception plan in history. Its mission was simple but daring: convince Hitler that the invasion of France would not come at Normandy, even though that was precisely where the Allies intended to strike. The deception was multi-layered. Fake radio transmissions, forged military orders, double agents feeding false reports, and entire phantom armies built on paper. They created imaginary divisions, constructed fake supply depots, and moved inflatable tanks under camouflage nets so German reconnaissance would believe they were real. Every message, every map, every staged movement was designed to make Hitler divide his forces, keeping his strongest units away from the actual landing site. Bodyguard was not just intelligence work, it was theater on a continental scale, performed with such mastery that even after D-Day began, Hitler refused to redeploy his panzer divisions, still convinced Normandy was a distraction. The most important part of Bodyguard was Operation Fortitude, a deception so effective that historians still struggle to believe how completely it fooled German high command. Fortitude created an illusion of a vast army, supposedly stationed in southeast England, preparing to invade Pas-de-Calais, the narrowest point between Britain and France. This illusion had everything: a fake general, George Patton, temporarily removed from combat and used as bait, fake barracks, fake ships, fake airfields, and entire phantom armies built on paper. They created imaginary divisions, constructed fake supply depots, and moved inflatable tanks under camouflage nets so German reconnaissance would believe they were real. Every message, every map, every staged movement was designed to make Hitler divide his forces, keeping his strongest units away from the actual landing site. Bodyguard was not just intelligence work, it was theater on a continental scale, performed with such mastery that even after D-Day began, Hitler refused to redeploy his panzer divisions, still convinced Normandy was a distraction. If there was ever a deception that sounded too unbelievable to work, it was Operation Mincemeat. In 1943, to invade Sicily safely, the Allies needed the Axis to believe the attack would come someplace else. So, British intelligence took a corpse, dressed it as a Royal Marine officer, chained a briefcase to his wrist, and filled it with fake invasion documents proving the Allies planned to attack Greece and Sardinia. They then released the body near Spain, knowing Axis agents would retrieve it. The documents were passed all the way to Hitler, who became convinced the Allies would strike in the Balkans. He diverted entire divisions away from Sicily, the actual target. When Allied forces landed, resistance was far weaker, saving thousands of lives. A single dead body, drifting ashore with forged papers, had fooled an empire. The Allies' greatest advantage came from their network of double agents, people who pretended to spy for the Axis while secretly reporting to the British. These agents fed the Germans a steady stream of believable lies: troop counts, weather reports, convoy movements, and false invasion plans.
But the brilliance came from the balance. They mixed truth with lies so carefully that Germany trusted them completely. Agent Garbo, alone, created an entire network of imaginary sub-agents, none of whom existed, yet Germany paid him and them salaries for years. Through these agents, the Allies controlled the enemy's understanding of the war. They didn't just hide the truth, they replaced it with a different truth, one the Axis believed wholeheartedly. By the war's final year, Allied deception had become a weapon as powerful as tanks and bombers. Hitler no longer trusted his generals, but he still trusted the lies the Allies fed him. German divisions moved based on shadows. Armies reacted to ghosts. Critical reinforcements arrived too late because they were sent to defend places that weren't under attack. When Allied forces landed Normandy, deception opened the door. When they wanted to mislead the Germans during the breakout from France, deception covered their movements. When the U.S. Army crossed the Rhine, deception hid the real crossing point. Allied intelligence didn't just confuse the Axis, they manipulated them, guiding their decisions from thousands of miles away. Deception didn't win the war alone, but without it, the war would have cost far more lives, taken far longer, and shaped a very different world.